Thank you. Arkadaşlarımıza, dostlarımıza hoş geldiniz deriz İstanbul'a, bu toplantıya. Ben de burada olmaktan çok mutluyum. O yüzden de Al-Sharq Forum'una ve Galip Dere'ye çok teşekkür ederim davet ettiği için. Ve bölgenin böyle bir kaos yaşadığı, büyük çalışmaların olduğu bir durumda bu toplantıyı yapmak çok önemli. Ve bu toplantıyı da geleceğe dönük olarak yapmak, acaba kriz sonrası durumda nasıl bir bölge, nasıl bir yapı varsayabiliriz ya da hayal edebiliriz? Bu soruyu sormak çok önemli. O yüzden burada olmaktan çok mutluyum. Bu andan itibaren İngilizceye döneceğim. Çünkü sunuşu İngilizce olarak hazırlamıştım. As we all know, the Arab Spring has started in a way that gave us big hopes. And it was a situation in which people are making their own history. And all this, after all of these Orientalist, imperialist understanding of the region, in which the people were considered, approached as not subject but objects of history, and people actually were trying to make their own history, which actually created big hopes, starting with Egypt, Tunisia. But then actually we started facing big problems now. We have actually extremely bad, chaotic situation. And of course, when people were trying to make their own history, they were also doing it for dignity. And as a matter of fact, there was actually a kind of a overlap, convergence of subjectivity and dignity. In a time, if you remember the beginning of 2010s, when the West is actually kind of declining, Europe was being shaken, United States actually was facing the big problem of crisis, the big corporations, neoliberal capitalism was facing big legitimacy problem there too. So in this sense, Arab Spring was not extremely important for the region and geography, but very important for the world too, because it gave us a possibility of thinking about the world beyond the geopolitical power games, thinking about beyond the world in terms of dignity, subjectivity, morality, and then the first time actually those people who have been approached as not subjects of history now was actually contributing to the world significantly. And this was the big hope, but of course we have actually a transition from hope to despair, in which we have a very chaotic situation where we have first, as Ibrahim Kalın and as I mentioned in my other writings, a big failed state situation. And as a matter of fact, this failed state situation in Syria and Iraq, but also Somalia, Yemen, and other Libya and other parts of the world, actually gives us, I think, moral and political job to locate it in a general picture. And if you actually read this conference, abstract, it's this failed state situation in this region is the symptom or manifestation of the failure of the Westphalian state system. So in this sense, we should not actually separate that from the big picture. But secondly, of course, we have in the beginning of Arab Spring a kind of a pluralization of identities. Different identities are getting together and trying to change the state existing authoritarian, rentier, corrupt state structures. But of course, these identities turn out to be extremely micro-identities, and then this identity politics turn out to be a sectarian wars. As Ibrahim Kalın said that those killing people are actually referring to the religion, and those being killed actually doing the referring to religion. So in this sense, we have a big identity problem too, because identity politics worked by denouncing democracy. So we couldn't actually create a balance between pluralization of identities and kind of a move for democracy and transformation in the region. But of course, I have to underline that this crisis of identity, or this crisis that occurs because of the increasing disjuncture between identity and democracy, identity and living together, should not be separated from the overall picture where we have a big problem of Islamophobia, xenophobia, and the collapse of the culture of living together all over the world, in Europe, so it's actually a global problem too. And of course, thirdly, the whole region turned out to be actually a chess game for the actors whose main intentions are geopolitical power struggles, rather than thinking about what happens to the people, what happens to these societies. And as a matter of fact, this internal wars turn into a proxy wars. For instance, what happens to Yemen cannot be understood without reference to proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Even Syria turned out to be a proxy war between, United States and Russia, and no one can actually explain the existence of Russia very physically and assertively in actual Syria without reference to Russia's geopolitical interest in the region, in the Mediterranean, so on and so forth. So in this sense, we have actually a big crisis situation, and this crisis situation occurs because of the failed state situation on the one hand, because of the communitarian essentialist identity structure on the other hand, and also the geopolitical games played on the region. Of course, my friends actually tell you about the different ideologies in terms of sectarianism, modernism, liberalism, different parts of Sunni and Arab, so on and so forth. I leave them to my actually experts and friends. But on the other hand, if the situation is like that, if the question actually is, do we have hope that we had in 2010? Can we actually envision a new social contract which actually creates some sort of opens a space opens a window for a different kind of envisioning of this region? I say, as being a cautionary optimist, I said yes, it is possible. We might actually see that, and as a matter of fact, the concerned non-essentialist actors coming from these identities, concerned and non-essentialist actors, carrying these kind of ideologies, might have a consensus, and might have a consensus over a new social contract, which might actually opens a space for a better geography, better space. And this social contract, I will actually stop here and just by mentioning the main elements. I think this social contract has 4 components for the region. And first component actually is state. And if we have actually failed states, if we have rentier states, if we have actually actually corrupt states, and if we are in the situation where we need to restructure the state, we need efficient states, then of course there should be a consensus on secular state. The state should be secular in this region. Among the actors with different ideologies, there might be a consensus on the secular state. Secular state in terms of impartiality, secular state in terms of objectivity and universality, and secular state in terms of also merit. That the employments and who happens to be or who takes the position in the state should be based on the merit. But while the state is secular, politics should be plural and open to accommodating and inclusive to the identities. I am actually, I am not very Weberian, but I am actually, restructuring the Weberian difference between state and politics. State is secular, but politics should be plural. and then all this religious, ethnic, and different kind of actors should take place in politics, should do their negotiation and deliberation in parliament, in politics. The third item actually is inclusive, as Daran Öcemoğlu suggests in why states fail, need to be inclusive institutions, strengthening civil society, transparency, accountability in state institutions. So in this sense, institutions should be inclusive and accommodating. And thirdly, there needs to be maintenance of identity, kind of maintenance of, as Ibrahim Kalın said, authenticity, but we need to soften identities. And the way in which we need to soften identities, we have to think about society not only in terms of identities, but also in terms of citizenship. And the fourth item actually would be equal citizenship among identities. You could be this, you could be that, but in relation to the state, in relation to other identities, you have to have equality in that sense. So in this sense, secular state, plural politics, inclusive institutions, and equal citizenship might be accepted by those actors that could maintain their identities but soften up a bit and then try to think about the new social contract. And I think a post-crisis region might be optimistically considered or approached on the basis of working on this kind of a social contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you.